We are here in Elmhurst, Queens, a community that saw some of the worst of Storm Ida's destruction. Ida's flooding showed us how much more work we have to do and how far we still have to go. And we know that we need a resilient transit system in order to be able to do that. During the storm, our buses never stopped running. And we know that our subways will be core to our overall response to a burning planet and climate change. But only if that transit system is funded in a way that brings back ridership and brings back rider trust. So we are here today to urge Senator Schumer to join his House colleagues like Congresswoman Meng in supporting and delivering transit operations funding. And we are so deeply proud to stand here with everyone, but especially Congresswoman Meng, who is critically a co-sponsor of the Stronger Communities Through Better Transit Act, which would send $3 billion annually to New York's MTA to maintain and expand fast and frequent affordable service that all of us and millions of our neighbors here in New York City rely on. So we'll begin by hearing from the Congresswoman. She represents New York's 6th District. She is New York's only Asian American Congress member. She's a lifelong New Yorker, and given my current situation, I'm inspired that she's a working mom.
I'm going to be making a statement after they're done.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I want to thank everyone at the Riders Alliance and all of our members and volunteers and my colleagues in government for taking the time to advocate for this important issue. This is an important issue nationally and throughout the city of New York, but especially for the families who live and work in Queens. Welcome to our district. We're here in Elmhurst. I was born in Elmhurst, spent the first few years of my life living in a basement in Elmhurst, and we have some of the best food available throughout this country, actually. So thrilled to have all of you with us today. You know, throughout the last few weeks, we have seen as families have suffered through the aftermath of Hurricane Ida and the floods that came with it. This is also a community that suffered and was severely impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Right around here in our backdrop is Elmhurst Hospital, which is one of the most impacted hospitals in the entire country and was hit early on. And our frontline workers, our Queens residents, our essential workers were not able to take a break because they were working hard to save our lives and to keep all of us healthy and safe and alive. And so we owe it to them to make sure that we are addressing the vulnerabilities of our mass transit system, which help them, as imperfect as the system is, that help them get to work and help save lives. We saw with Hurricane Ida, with just a few inches of rain, and this was not the first time we saw it, unfortunately. We saw how it impacted and flooded and trapped so many New Yorkers because of the rain and because of the flooding. And this is there's no better time than now to make sure that we are putting in the investments. We're talking about infrastructure bills, we're talking about building back better, but it's not just about money, it's about building back smarter too. Through the CARES Act, through the American Rescue Plan, Congress and the federal government have already provided billions of dollars of funding. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge my state colleagues who worked in the last few years, and it's been going on since I was there, to work on legislation like the Lock Stock Bill, which goes towards effectively and efficiently using the money that New Yorkers pay with our tax dollars. And so we need to make sure that we are using this money correctly. One of the reasons that I am advocating for the Stronger Communities Through Better Transit Act. And I really want to thank the Riders Alliance and all its partners, because not only have you been talking about the importance of this bill, they've been working across the country to get more members to co-sponsor it, and that's what provides momentum for us in Congress to be able to pass this bill. More money is not enough. We need more money, but we need a smarter formula in how we're using the money. The money can't just go towards capital and physical costs. It has to go through operational costs, so that we are required through this legislation, we would be required to provide more frequent service, more buses, more subways, so that we're not seeing our children, pregnant people, senior citizens wait on lines that go on for blocks at a time, especially here in Queens. We need to make sure that the service is being provided at a more frequent pace. We also need to make sure that we are making our stations accessible. All of you know, only about 25% of our stations in New York City is wheelchair accessible. That is not okay. There's so many people that can't utilize their mass transit system because they can't access it, literally.
I'm from Passengers
So we
United.
have a lot more work to do, and I really want to thank my colleagues who are here today, all of our advocates. They are representing the voices and the needs and the cries of so many New Yorkers. So let's get this bill done and get more money into our mass transit system so they can continue to help improve the quality of lives of the New Yorkers who deserve it so much. Thank you. Speaking of traveling all throughout the borough and throughout the city, we are thrilled to have with us a tremendous advocate for our working families here in Queens, but also someone who can attest to the fact why more equitable and accessible mass transit is needed. Our very own Queensborough President, Donovan.
Thank you, Grace. And first, let me thank all of the organizations, the Riders Alliance, who I've worked very closely with from my time starting in the City Council. We worked on select bus service on Woodhaven, and we need to see some more select bus service expanded across the borough. But today is really an important day, and as my colleague alluded to, the fact we came out of Hurricane Ida. One of the ways to reduce carbon emissions is to ensure that we're getting people out of their cars. And the only way people will get out of their cars is if we have an efficient, effective, reliable transportation system running in our borough and across the city. Let me also just add that New York State and New York City sends more money to the federal government than any other state. We should not have to beg for our fair share. Say that again. We send more money to the federal government than any other state. The $3 billion that can come here is a life changer and a game changer for the people of our borough. We're talking about immigrants, we're talking about low-income workers, we're talking about Black and brown communities who did not have the luxury of staying home during COVID-19. We still had to go to work. And guess what? The MTA workers who live in our communities also ensured that the city that never sleeps, never ever slept even during the pandemic. There were our frontline workers who kept this city running as well. So today, we are here to say that yes, we need to see this bill move. We need to see this money move. We need to see congestion pricing move. We need to see real investment in our public infrastructure. And it's not just, as Grace alluded to, about gray infrastructure and green infrastructure. It's about investing in people's lives, working class people who need to see investment in their system. If you want to make sure that there's more equity and justice in people's lives, we often say that transportation is the great equalizer. As we talk about bringing our economy back, transportation has to be a key strategic be strategically invested in to ensure that all of this works in conjunction. Housing, health, transportation, all of these things work together. So I want to thank you for your work, my Congresswoman Grace Meng, who's been on the front lines of her community as Ida has impacted so many of our folks. I also like to add that I'm a basement baby as well. We have a basement coalition going on in government now, but this is truly what today is about, making sure that the working class has a seat at the table and that we're not just simply building back. Because there are people who say, let's go back to normal. Well, normal never worked for the people of Queens County. That's why this pandemic hit us harder. We need a new normal where transportation equity is front and center. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Borough President. Next we'll hear from Iman Ramawi, who is the Accessoride campaign coordinator and an organizer with New York Lawyers for the Public Interest. We talk a lot about subways and buses, but
with disabilities, like myself, are completely forgotten, even though we literally eat, sleep, and poop in all the neighborhoods that you all do it in. I've been in New York my whole life. I am also a basement baby. Grew up in a house with a basement in Briarwood, Queens, many moons ago, and you know, if we were in Ida, we probably would have been flooded and died in that too, and that's unfortunate and sad. But speaking about the accessibility, you know, they just reinstated shared rides in July on Accessorize, and doing that during a pandemic, considering we have Delta and now we have the new MU thing that I read about this morning, that doesn't seem like the time to reinstate shared rides. That doesn't seem like a time to put your most vulnerable people at risk. And, you know, the chief accessibility guy said, oh, well, you know, it's inherently flawed to think that we have people with compromised immune systems. Except you do have multiple people who use Accessorize with compromised immune systems, including the largest population of Accessorize riders who are over 65.
I'm the president of Passengers United, and we do a lot of work in this community. And I want to issue this letter to the borough president. Because we have a statement, we're very upset because they didn't invite us. And we attend all the FP board meetings. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me follow
Yeah.
the email.
Yeah.
And I'll take care.
Good for him.
Yeah.
But I do.